Good morning, everyone. Okay, it's day 3. Are we on day 3? I'm going to try to make this a little interactive because I'm guessing, I hope you all have had your coffee, like me, second, third, it's fine. But I want to make this a little more interactive. I know our energy's probably dipping a little bit, being day 3, and that it's 8 a.m. So I hope you will work with me and kind of collaborate, communicate with me as we go. My name is Alicia Scott. I am a part of the Dawn CDAO under Ms. Rathbun in the Dawn CIO office. We cover everything from data analytics, AI, data maneuverability as our house. We're working to build this space. We're working to do what we can to move it forward, but we don't do that without you all. We don't do that without our partners, both across industry, both in academia, in our warfare centers, in our military force. We cannot move any of this forward without the help. We really move from a guide, shape, steer space and have you all enact and tell us what actually is needed done. So I'm open to hearing you and what you have to say today and later on. Feel free to communicate with us. Okay, we're going to start with a little bit of context and a scary number. As of us making these slides, I think it's more 7:02 now. There are 710 days until January 1st, 2027, when we've been told as our ready date, which we may or may not, but we want to try to be ready by January 1st in 2027. That's a big date. That's much closer than our POM session moves, than the way we normally work in the government. Being, quote, fully ready by 2027 is not something that we can move in our standard patterns. So we are working to make it easier and make it more accessible to reach the state in a ready sense, in a ready state. So for that, we're going to start with hands raised, if you could. What analytics and AI resources does your command need to be ready by 2027? So hands up if you think your command is already ready and has tools, has data, has capabilities they need to be ready tomorrow, and whatever ready means to you. All right. Okay. Who thinks on the path or trajectory you're on now, you would be ready with no more intervention, no more help by 2027? Okay, that means we have a lot of work to do, both in my office and in yours. If anybody wants to speak up, what do you think the main thing you need to be ready? What's the biggest thing you're missing right now? BJ, I am going to be doing a lot of these. Yeah, go for it. If you want to, they'll have one roaming too.
So in my office, which is the DSITS, Dawn SAP IT Services, we understand the need for AI in a number of different areas. However, we don't have funding to implement that. And it's not that it's not a priority, it's just that with all the priorities, there are, choices that have to be made. And because it's not a service that we currently offer, and we have to maintain the services that we do offer, we don't have funding that we can allocate to AI. We are, however, preparing for potential sweep-ups and fallout funding in order to pursue something. So, that's where we stand right now.
Yeah, so I'm hearing both funding and too many priorities to maintain everything that you think you need to get there. Somebody else want to shout something out?
We need real data maneuverability, like an API between flying speed and Jupiter.
I hear you. He said real data maneuverability, specifically API between flying speed and Jupiter. Agree. I saw another hand up back there if you want to go.
Name's John Babick. I support a couple of contracts with the fleet and the type commanders. And I was actually silent copy him +1. We got to break down the data barriers and just help with data maneuverability.
Okay, data barriers, data maneuverability. I hear you. I will be asking you more questions, so get ready. So, from our office, we want to be in a space of guide, shape, steer. We are not the ones that are on the front lines doing the day in, day out. We're not the ones who have the opportunity to do that. So we want to do what we can from our seat to help you in yours. And that comes in a different format. It comes in how we create guidance. It comes in how we're reducing barriers for you. It's coming in how we help you maximize the use of data, manage data assets, and encourage different collaborative approaches across your different departments as well as ours. This is critical and essential to actually achieving mission advantage, data maneuverability, and being aligned to ISV 2.0 and Ms. Rathbun's vision. We cannot do ISV 2.0 without data maneuverability or without the tools that will support that. So we're working on creating, using the power that we have, a culture of data and tech sharing. So Ms. Rathbun spoke on Monday with the other Navy chiefs about the criticality of ISV for urgently solving mission problems, accelerating emerging technology, and getting better at the business of IT. We're doing what we can to enable our sailors and Marines to fight through and win in a contested information environment today and in the future. The decide pillar, which is really what we fall under in Dawn CDAO, is particularly concerned with the data maneuverability to drive that decision advantage and achieved through a skilled data workforce, which we discussed, if you were there, and generating authoritative and integrated analytics and AI products. We want these products to be able to be shared, to be able to be built once and used often. We want them to be able to get where they need to go so they don't stay in development but move all the way to usage. We want them where they can be collaborative. If you build it, then someone else can use it now too. We want to make the most use of what we have. So this comes in our scaled adoption of modern software tool chains, enabling analytics and AI from enterprise all the way to actual edge and back again. That's something that we definitely have a gap in right now that we're working quickly to cover down on and solve that gap. Told you. Okay, so we're going to move into 3 parts of how Stephanie and I have really thought about this vision for Dawn, AI, and analytics. So the first tenet that we're looking at this year is generative AI. It is the sexiest term around right now. We're all super excited about it. It's all I hear about. Instead of analytics as a whole, it's just generative AI and an LLM. So for you all, hands raised, who is actually using generative AI today, maybe not today, you're at a conference, but in general, to do your job right now? Okay, who thinks their job would be made better by using generative AI? Okay. Who thinks generative AI is just a red herring and we don't need to be dealing with it as much as we are? Okay, that's helpful. So what's a specific mission gap? Again, come up, shout out. A mission gap that you think generative AI would solve at your command or in your role?
Knowledge transfer. So having a bunch of different documents, policy documents, all the things that you're supposed to know and not having ready access to that, especially as, especially military members are transferring in and out relatively frequently.
Okay, I heard knowledge transfer, specifically with military members coming in and out, being able to read a lot of policy documents to get moved up and understood of your job quickly. Someone else?
You said I'm not talking more. I'll share something that I know Pac Fleet is using. Oh, thank you. Pac Fleet is using AI agents to use right now, and that's you're making AI agents. So not just generative AI, but actually using an agent to do things like weight reduction engineering on ships, or to optimize an ordnance loadout. So what they're looking at right now is using like artificial intelligence and using the framework that AI is like an AI intern or an AI junior officer, an officer in qualifications.
I'm hearing agentic AI and or training, programming, training an algorithm to do certain pieces of our work for us to make them faster. Okay, anyone else? We're gonna have to get some variety, folks.
Sure.
I'm gonna start calling on names.
Our plan right now, moving forward, is to use AI to help with classifying documents, read in the classification guides, and then use it to classify and validate documents that have been classified.
Yeah, I'm hearing reading SCGs to actually be able to label the documents instead of a human having to do that intensiveness. Gary?
Maintenance and sustainment. While we're on the topic of analysis there, in the intelligence community, there's so many sources of information to be consumed. So generative AI could help the analysts get through so much of that to be able to lead to decision making.
Yeah, so not a human out of the loop, but a human more prepared to be in the loop faster. Great. Okay. For our approach, obviously we have a short-term and a long-term vision. What we're working on first out of the Dawn CDAO office, step 1, developing minimum requirements for Dawn generative AI. AKA, before building or buying, it has to meet this number of requirements, which we will be pushing out. It has to do X number of things, be this secure, make it through a list of checks that we're currently developing, we will push out, to be considered. So if you're going to build it, you have to build it to a minimum standard. If you're going to buy it, that vendor has to be at a minimum standard. We want to partner with our vendors on this. We want to partner with our builders on this to make sure that it's moving forward as a unified front. But what we don't want is 1,000 different generative AI tools that don't meet even a minimum standard, but they started building it because they thought it would be cool, or they really saw a need, but didn't have the ability to make it all the way to what a minimum requirement would be. Step 2 would be partnering with our vendors to align tools and solutions with Dawn needs. So with this partnering with our vendors, we want to have a vendor-approved list of, hey, this vendor has come to us and has shown us their tool. It's meeting the world-class alignment metrics that you've heard from CTO. It's in this horizon that Justin has talked about. And it has the ability to do what you need it to do. We've seen it, we've verified it, the vendor has double-checked and shown that their security is up to a certain standard. And then we, as the Dawn, are able to move out faster with that vendor to say, yes, we know this tool is one that can be used. Yes, this tool is going to move us forward faster, and it's going to do it in a secure manner. Step 3 is creating an AI registry of all generative AI solutions. So we want to know if people are working on Gen AI. We want to know so other people can use it. We want to know so that we can track what is going on and how development's working. We've seen this, I'll talk a little bit about this more in the next slide, but we have seen all of us run, like, you know when your 5-year-old plays soccer and they all go towards the ball at one time? We don't want that to be how we're moving out on our analytic AI solutions, and specifically with Gen AI, because it's newer. We have this ability to say, let's go about this with our linemen. Let's go forward in a unified play instead of all running towards the ball like we're 5. Not to diminish anyone who's working on Gen AI, to say that you're not intelligent people. I know everyone wants to be doing their absolute best, but we do want to have a strategy behind how we're moving out. And then step 4, maintaining an approved service list aligned with Dawn generative AI solutions. So what we've heard from the community a lot is saying, hey, I don't want to build this myself, but I need a tool that can do X. I need a tool that can do Y. And then having a list that is on a website that someone in the crowd has made for us. Thank you, Tomer. That is available to show our Dawn members, hey, you need a generative AI solution to do X. We've already evaluated. Here are 3 different ones that you could evaluate to see if they work for your specific use case and in your price point and in your need range as far as scalability or how many users you would need. Because obviously the tool that you need for 80,000 users is different than the tool you need for 8, most likely. So having this approved service list aligned with that will hopefully make it easier for our Dawn members to go through and select and not feel like they have to build it to get the right solution, but instead have better knowledge of what's already out there and available to them. And we will really be using step 3 to populate step 4. So if we don't have what you are working on in our step 3, there's no way for it to populate in step 4. And if we don't have what we need from step 2 in the vendor list, there's no way for us to populate the vendors into our step 4. So it really builds on itself and does take collaboration for this to be a successful movement. I think Jane put it on Monday, the land of 1,000 flowers. We don't want 1,000 solutions that could be done by one single solution. We, from our research, from our scoping of pilots, have seen that about 80% of the use cases could be done by an enterprise tool. And then there are 20% of use cases that really need something specialized. They need something super specific, super unique, and tailored to do that. But we don't want 1,000 tools to handle the 80%. If we need 1,000 tools to handle the 20%, that's fine. But the 80% we want to be doing in kind when we can. So our goal is to bring them under one umbrella, hence my beautiful graphic. Consolidating generative AI use cases so that when we can do the 80%, we want an enterprise solution that can do that. We are currently evaluating those pilots. I might get into that a little more later. We've already started consolidating all the pilots that are already going on in the Dawn, so we understand who should rise to the top and what could be scaled as an enterprise solution. We know from talking with folks that generative AI is something you want access to. You want it to be easier. You want it to be more close to touch. And so getting that out quickly is something that we're working on. Ms. Rathbun is paying very close attention to it. I'm not sweating. It's fine. I love when Jane is really watching my initiatives. But this does come with eliminating redundancy, evaluating edge cases as needed, and simplifying so that we build once and use it often. We will continue this evaluation. We will be communicating to the community as we make more decisions or as we find things. But if you find something that you think, hey, I think this could be for the 80%, let us know. We want to know. We want to have the best move to the top. If you think, hey, I really think I should still continue building this because it's going to target a part of the 20% so well and solve something so well, great. We want to enable you. We want people to know that they have access to that 20% solution. So this is the slide, if you were here Monday, I know not everyone was, that you would have seen us present on Monday. Delivering the decision advantage. This is our overall roadmap for data maneuverability, data, AI, and analytics. Now, Stephanie talked to this a little bit yesterday in her data maneuverability and data strategy space. But all the things you see on that can't happen. I'm going to start with data. We can't just move to generative AI. We can't immediately have generative AI. We have to have that underpinning of data. So this doesn't work without having all the proper data, data governance, data maneuverability, APIs to actually have access to things. If we don't have that underpinning, we're not going to do as well in our analytic and AI tooling. Our answers are only as good as the data that we provide it with and the knowledge that we interpret the models with. So with all of this, you're going to see along the systematic data processes. Those have to come along with our analytics and AI. We can't just move out on AI. We can't just move out on a new analytical tool without having those underpinnings. This will take and hopefully bring us the outcomes on the side, which are empowered by our tooling, by our analytics, and by our AI. So I hope this is what you take away if you take away nothing else. Besides that, it's super fun to come to an 8 a.m. session. But we want information decision advantage. We want reduced risk. We want smart divestment for smarter investment. And while that is scary, that's what's going to enable our workforce better. That's what's going to enable us to be ready by January 1st, 2027. It does take a change in culture, but as we established at the beginning, what's gotten us here is not going to get us there. So we're going to have to shift our culture and how we're moving out to align to this and to align to that 2027 date. And we hope these steps, though general, will get us there. So the next step that Stephanie and I are really looking at, so the first step, generative AI, check. The second step is understanding roles and responsibilities. Again, how are you supposed to know who to go to? I'm going to start, this isn't in my slides, but I'm just going to start. If you needed an analytic tool or you had a gap, can you raise hands if you knew exactly who to talk to say, they'll make sure I have this technology, the funding for it, the resourcing, and the sustainment support? We got one. So we understand that we can't do any of this without everyone understanding the roles and responsibilities. Who do I go to when something's not working? Who do I go to when I need a new tool or capability? Who do I go to when I've invested, or created a tool or capability that I think everyone needs access to? So having that documentation, having that understanding, and having the ability to disseminate it in a clear and concise way is our second pillar that we're working on. And I'm not saying that the order of the pillars is the order of importance. I'm not saying Gen AI is more important than this. It's just the order my slides are in. So we're hoping to come together the front to move forward as one united force. So you'll see that we're doing this under the Voltus principles. I talked a little bit about Voltus on Monday, but our goal is to guide, to shape, to steer. Voltus and our values of data are both how we're going to move out and the underpinning and the outcome for everything that we're doing. So we want it to be accessible. We want it to be trustworthy. We can't move forward without those. Our office values are trying to have us be highly aligned but loosely coupled. That's something you'll hear from Mr. Tanner a lot. Barry is the deputy CIO under Jane and has been talking about these methodologies for the CIO office across all of his talks, if you've gotten the pleasure to hear him speak. We want to lead with context, not control. So yes, we might be doing a generative AI registry or an AI registry or an analytics registry, but we're not trying to say analytics can only be done in this format, in this software, with this way. We don't want to minimize creativity. The best part of some of our workforce is the creativity that you get to bring to our solutions. And if we too hem in with additional guidance or too many guardrails, you don't get that creativity. You don't get that space to create something novel and brand new that we've seen come out of our vendors, our academia, and come out of our military partners and our warfare center partners. We want to enable that. So again, leading with context, not control. You understand that we don't want 1,000 solutions, but we're also not saying you can only build a solution this way in this software. So our steps for roles and responsibilities are publishing Dawn Analytics and AI strategy. We're going to update analytics and AI lifecycle guidance because it is a lifecycle. We can't make it and be done with it forever. We had a question yesterday in data products of, I made 10 dashboards because I was required to, and then nobody looked at them again. So if that's where we're going with our analytics, there's a problem in our life cycle. There's a break that we need to work on. So we're working on that life cycle guidance. We're going to be working on aligning roles and responsibilities across the organization. As I said, you want to know who to go to. You want to know who can answer your questions. You want to know how to push up a good tool to the top. And then we want to designate clear channels of reporting. So some of this will come, as Stephanie mentioned, in DCOPE, the Data Community of Practice and Excellence. Having ability through our governance structure to say, hey, I have a problem, and push it all the way to the top. And also have a community to answer your questions, to have a community that understands what you're going through. But I think what we've been missing, and Stephanie's really trying to put in that data governance that she's been working hard on, is that ability to push to the top of you're in ESH4 and something is blocking you, you can't get your data, you can't get access to the tool you need, you have the ability to move it through a chain of command that isn't just your manager or isn't just your base if it's something larger. So clear delineation of and channels. My third pillar is enterprise services. So we're going to start with who knows what an enterprise service is from a Dawn CIO definition. Okay. Let's start with a definition. Siobhan Harris and team have done a phenomenal job to work out and move forward on enterprise services. An enterprise service is something that everyone has access to do a specific job. I'll give a couple examples as we go through. But an enterprise service is supposed to be a tool that you can go to without having to worry about whether it meets qualifications, without having to go out and find, fund, create your own, but it's already available there for you to make access of. An enterprise service is something that you don't have to necessarily come up with the entirety of the funding or organize a contract for or organize the licensing for because it's already been done for you. It's something that we can do, again, it's that 80% solution. We know that there will still be 20%, but the 80% solution that can cover those use cases. Who has interacted with an enterprise service from a Dawn CIO enterprise service or thinks that they have? Okay, not bad. Because that's a low answer, though, I'm not going to answer that question or ask that question. I'm going to move into my comments, and then we'll talk a little bit after. So for our enterprise service model, we're hoping to ensure that the Navy has mature solutions that improve performance, security, and the customer experience. So establishing, and this Siobhan Harrison team under the CTO, under Justin Finelli, are leading out on this. We are just collaborating on this. So they've already created the framework, and we're adopting that framework to help move data, analytic, and AI solutions up to the top. So through this, we're establishing formal AI evaluation processes so that we understand that the algorithm works the way it's supposed to, that the tool is going to do what it needs to do. Tomer is going to talk about that in about an hour and a half. This morning, I highly recommend his talk. He's really prepared and has thought a lot about these evaluation processes. Second, we'll be evaluating and submitting to CTO for designation and deployment. So that's submitting to Siobhan Harris's team. She did a talk yesterday. If you can get to the recording, would recommend. Designating model repositories and inventory tools. If you've made the tool, if you've made it, having a repository of those, just like we said with the registry, to know where to have access, to know how to get to that. And then sustaining those enterprise services for analytics and AI. We will be directly involved in how we create that sustainment plan and move that forward. Because if you don't have a tool that you know is going to be there, how are you going to trust it? So I want to first highlight a couple of the enterprise services that showed out this year. So the first one, and I didn't tell them I was going to do this, so hopefully they're not mad. So the first one I want to highlight is Cosmos. So NIWC PAC has created a tool for a cloud service that's able to be so easy to access. The barrier to entry on Cosmos is so low, which was what makes it so valuable. It's a scalable AWS IL4.5 unclassed GovCloud environment. It's managed by the Cosmos team and allows you to self-onboard and secure non-production workloads. So basically, you can do your AI development in a cloud, and it's already available, and it's quick to get uploaded. I want to shout out specifically to Heather Hebben, Jonathan Burgard, Henry Houle, James Curtin, and the entire Cosmos team. This has been officially designated as an enterprise service, and they are leading the charge in this space. So if you already have trouble or didn't know this existed, Cosmos is there for if you're going to make an algorithm, if you want to make a tool, they have the development tools for a non-production pipeline for you to do that development in cloud. The second analytical capability spotlight that I'm going to highlight is Jupyter. So if you've not gotten one, the Jupyter table's out front. The brochure is lovely. I'll Vanna White for a second. But the growth that Jupyter's seen in the last year is really impressive. They already have 182 different Dawn organizations inside of the platform. There's 198 data sources, which is a growth from 142 last year. There's over 900 different applications that people have built in that platform, which means not only can you build proof that you can build an application yourself if you need it, a dashboard, a tool, but it also means that maybe somebody else has created something that you could use. Within the platform, they have an inventory of those tools available. Jupyter has about 575 different use cases already in the platform and continuing to grow. It is built on AWS with Databricks, Tableau, Qlik, and other amazing tools within the platform that are already ready and available for use. If you have questions, the Jupyter team is out front and can do a demo. They can tell you how to get access. They can tell you how to get an account. I think that's actually in the brochure. And if you quick rewind to Cosmos, they have a presentation on Thursday where they'll be doing a demo of their software. Would recommend that as well. Okay, more questions for you. I hope you're enjoying it. First, now that you know what enterprise services are, who thinks we'll do hand raise. Do you have a gap that you think there should be an enterprise service to solve for? Do you have a gap in your work structure that you're like, if there was an enterprise tool, I would use it today? Okay. Okay, now for shout out question. What kind of enterprise services do you think you're missing? What's the kind of tool that you think you need?
So you talk about data maneuverability, but if you're out on the edge in INDOPACOM in the fight under DDIL, you don't want to move all that data from NASIC to your ship or NASIC to your mock. You just want whatever the answer is that the analytics found wherever it resides, because that backhaul is not going to be available, and also you don't want to pay for it. I think we're missing that.
Yeah, I think that's completely valid. So the comment being, I don't want full data maneuverability everywhere. I don't want to have to house the data everywhere I want to use it. I want to have access to the right answer at the right time in the right place. So tooling to do that is something we're looking to as we're in a distro A environment. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But we are looking into those things. And we don't have the end-all be-all of solutions, but we are moving out.
So I'm Jason Graves from ADB Database, and I just wanted to share, I just did an enterprise agreement with PMW 160, and the reason that's relevant, what he just said, we're now putting our database in an entire fleet. So we have an enterprise agreement already in place that goes out to all 200 platforms, so they can leave the data in Oracle or SQL or Postgres database in the next 2 to 5 years. So that technology is already being pushed out through ACS and the fleet. So just want to share that.
Yeah. I think it's also important to distinguish, as we're talking about, we use the word enterprise a lot. Per Dawn, we use the same word to describe a lot of things. When I'm saying an enterprise service, I'm thinking from all the way from Pentagon down. We also have organizations that are doing enterprise tooling at their level and down. So for any kind of misnomers or just clarification. Other ideas for enterprise service? Yeah, Nicole.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So one of the things that we have started working with someone who's been doing their job for the Navy they've been around for 4 decades, and they have a lot of legacy engineering technical data in formats that are not conducive to doing anything modern with. And the process of getting that they're not in databases, to get it into a structure is manual and laborious and overwhelming. There are tools that could scrape and create and translate that data. We don't use them. Having that as an enterprise service, I think, would help a lot of people move forward in leaps and bounds.
That's phenomenal. What I'm hearing is we have a lot of legacy data that is in creative formats. And being able to access that in a digital way to actually use modern tooling on is a gap we have. And having an enterprise service that could be available to do that would solve a lot of problems instead of us each individually having to go out, buy, create, figure out on our own. That's exactly what enterprise services are. Great point, Nicole. Anybody else? Okay. How?
Say, ma'am, just
Yeah.
another one. So, my name's Preston. I'm a deputy for Navy Applications and Business Systems and PEO, Manpower Logistics and Business. So I'm the deputy for a small program, 10 ACAD level 3 programs primarily. And, the talk previous days, hey, RMF. So not only moving from, we got a lot of programs, not a whole lot of money, but how do we move these programs, in some cases on-prem, into the cloud, and then have to deal with all RMF. And these programs, are just, they're kind of strangled by resources. So that's a big need out there for these smaller programs. And if we can figure a quick way to do it, talk about data as the woman before me came, so we can clean all that data up and get it ready for the cloud for the next, need that's out there. That would be a wonderful enterprise service, again, for the Navy and Navy programs.
Do you feel like because it's specifically tailored to RMF, it should be an 80% solution, or do you think it's a need for a tailored solution that's coming down from top to enable multiple small programs across?
So it's RMF, Risk Management Framework, is a small percentage of that. But there's also, as we, again, scale, it's going, we can do, there's certain web-based cloud-based platforms out there that are just, that you can do non-prod, but they're not ready for production. So in our cases, we'd love to be able to move to a full CI/CD pipeline to go into full production that we can take as a service for risk management framework and going forward. That's a major hole in our portfolio.
Okay, so maybe a process that's an enterprise service that's approved for how to move things through and faster.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, heard. Okay, we already mentioned that we don't know necessarily how to, when we have a problem, move it all the way up to the top, or if we have a tool, move it all the way to the top. I want to ask you all here, what do you think is the most ideal way to escalate an issue? How would you want to be able to escalate an issue or escalate a solution? Thoughts?
How about a use case inventory?
So Gary has plugged some of his work. We love that. So Gary, Katarina, and the team have been working on a lot of different inventory basics. So Katarina talked yesterday about the data catalog, a data inventory. So you actually know where your data is, or you know that a data source exists, who to get access to, what metadata it has, what it actually covers. They're moving out on that. Within the Jupyter platform, they do have a use case repository and a use case dashboard to show you, here's a use case, here's what it's working on, here's who the lead is, here's what you need to know about it, any dashboards it has. Excuse me. So we have some partial solutions, but moving out on inventories to build those out so they're more useful. Other ideas? Quiet on this one. Maybe it's because it's a hard problem. Stephanie and I will be working on this with our teams to see how we can do this in an efficient manner. We will be asking for feedback as we go along, and we hope that you will give honest and clear, honest feedback, even if you hate it, of a, I don't think this will work, and here is why, so that we can address those reasons, we can address those issues as we formulate a process. We don't want to create a process that only makes sense to us. We want it to make sense to the community. I'm going to highlight a couple, because this is analytics and AI. We've highlighted some tools, but I want to highlight some analytical wins from this year from a few teams. Again, I didn't tell them I was doing this, so. The Warfighter Material Support Logistics Metrics use case. So this is a 2024 highlight for us. They provided the U.S. Fleet Forces Command, U.S. PAC Fleet, and U.S. Naval Forces Europe with real-time or near real-time logistics support metrics. They were able to display and manipulate metric outcomes, and they had quick drill-down capability that enabled the customers to access and assess performance quality rapidly and determine where resources needed to be applied. This made a huge difference to the team it was deployed for, and I want to send a kudos out to the team. The second one would be the Marine Corps pipeline optimization. So the Don CDAO Jupyter team did successfully optimize the Marine Corps' total force system. So the data pipeline significantly reducing the runtime from 35 hours down to 2.5. So think about the amount of data that moves forward from 35 hours of processing to 2.5. It was a real win this year, and we want to continue to see more. I have so many of these of our analytical highlights. I have so many people that I know of, that we know of in Don CIO, Don CDAO, who have just killed it this year. People are working so hard because they're so passionate about our mission. They want to be working not only to the 2027 date, but they want to be working to making life, to be making data, to be making warfighter needs easier. They want to be answering questions faster and better. And the passion I see from this community when doing that is phenomenal. People, we're not in stasis. People are moving forward so quickly, and it's just so impressive to see from the community. Okay, I have more slides, but I think I'd rather hear from you all if you have questions. So I think I'm going to pause here. Anybody have questions for me in general about our analytics and AI strategy for this year and coming years?
So we talked about enterprise services, but how does a vendor go through the process of creating a use case or a solution that's already tested, proven, and even deployed in the Navy, but how does industry start that process?
Amazing question. So how do our vendors partner with us in the enterprise service framework? So a few things for this. One would be in the world-class alignment metrics and the horizons that Justin Finelli and team from CTO have put out. So submitting into that horizon program so we understand where you are in your development cycle. So horizon from I am just a new pilot testing out something brand new, or I am a tested, tried and true capability that already has proven use cases under it. And those can be evaluated using the metrics that are unified across. That's all published on LinkedIn under the Don CIO page. You can get more information about it pretty easily via Google. So first doing that so that we already know where you fall according to those metrics and horizons before we even talk to you. That way, the first question we ask you isn't, what horizon are you in? Have you done world-class alignment metrics? We've already passed through that, and we can actually apply in a faster and more tactile way. The second way with vendors, we will be putting out, especially for AI capabilities, we will be putting out a list of minimum requirements. We have not published those as of yet. Those will go out far and wide once we do and move forward on those, but they are not out yet, but it is coming. As far as analytical capabilities, you'll use that horizon chart and evaluate through that process of how to get in with us, and then your standard how to work with government processes. Other questions for me? Okay, other things you think we could be doing better? Oh, yeah, go for it.
it might be and not as germane, and you can answer this for me. Tell me now. So we have people who, in Flank Speed, for example, there's a way to set up like command productivity areas where people can test and build and do dev stuff, but it's no cost and they can go and play, right? Play, but they're trying to build a solution. We have people wanting to do that with AI, and they're going to Nipper GPT and things like this, but they're not actually able to train their data properly because they don't have a space. Do you have in your mind an equivalent, no cost, easy access, dev only, right, or test only AI kind of play space for people who want to go and try and build algorithms against accepted LLMs that the DoD has already approved, already in mind or already available?
So for LLMs, we're putting out that registry of pre-approved ones. We do have tools like Cosmos if you want to go fully build your own and work with a vendor partner that has already created a basis for you to build on top of. For if you're trying to go deep into development. And then once we've identified a generative AI solution, we are hoping to have that available to folks to either fine-tune that model themselves or through their querying or through adjusting in that way. So, but the enterprise service, we've not selected that yet. It is in the path for this year, but we haven't done it as of yet.
Brad Chatlis from Data Robot. OSD has paid for a non-production sandbox already in the Advana environment that you could get to for free. And they have also paid for services to do piloting and proof of concepts with us. So that money has already been spent, paid. It's accessible in Jupyter. I'm hoping we're on level 3 when the list comes out, but it is there today and accessible. Love to talk to anybody about it. Thanks.
Somebody mentioned the magic word Advana. What's the long-term plan for Jupiter? Are you guys going to stay in Advana? Is the Navy going to go its own direction? Can you talk a little bit more about that since we're talking about enterprise services and platforms?
Sure. So right now, Jupiter is in the Advana platform. So it is a part of the OSD platform, meaning that we get the security that OSD provides, we get the additional tooling that OSD works for, and we have the power across DoD at large to creatively negotiate, is the word I'm going to use, our price structure models. So that when we're coming together as a large group, so that we're not each individually trying to get a different price. Now, I'm not saying any of our vendor partners would do that, but it makes at least that you're not each doing the contracting yourself. So driving towards that one unified front makes a big deal. The other thing that we get from the Advana platform and being connected to that is access to the OSD data. So that makes it easier for us to have access to Army data, to Air Force data, to OSD at large data, something that we have struggled with in the past to be able to get access when we need. So it's not each individual person going, can you please share your data with me? And instead it's already in that platform and accessible for DAWN use cases because we know this is not a single fight. We know Navy or Marine Corps on our own are not going to win this and cannot do it on their own. We need a unified front. And that has an underpinning of data as well. So if we know that's important, so it's a factor in all of our decisions. We are moving out to decide how Jupiter will look in the future as an enterprise service, but DAWN CDAO and DAWN CIO are fully committed to having an analytic enterprise service available.
Yeah, might be early to talk about this, but can you talk a little bit about pilots? Because pilots could happen just about anywhere. How would we maybe bring that up to a higher level to make sure that we're all tracking and sharing the information?
Do you have a specific type of pilot or a pilot in any type of pilot and analytical AI tool capability?
This past winter, we put out prize challenges. I just want to make sure that those types of events, whatever the topic may be, are at least tracked appropriately. So analytics and AI probably most likely this year.
I'd love to see better tie-in from that level to ours. So one, it's getting pushed out in all our communication paths, but that also you get a broader reach of folks. So we're hoping to do that by the restructuring of DCOPE to be able to push that up and down the chain better, and then to be using our communication methods at our level to be able to push that out far and wide, and then move those to the inventory, which Gary and Katarina could talk more about, of how to get those logged and understood when those solutions come out at the end.
Hi, Alicia. I have a question from the Teams chat. How are these initiatives aligning to Zero Trust and RMF?
Such an easy question from the chat. So we know zero trust is important. In a fully distro environment, I'm not going to give details, unfortunately. As we apply tools, we are looking how to both sustain security, understand zero trust, but also move in an efficient manner. So it's not 3 years to get a new tool or a capability available and get it pushed out. It is not something that we've forgotten about in doing this. We're making sure all our tools apply. You can see that in Flink Speed from their zero trust metrics that they were able to have a phenomenal score on. Advana has an ATO, which means Jupyter has an inherited ATO. You'll see, so sorry. You'll see that in our tooling, we're still applying to the risk management framework, but we are evaluating how we can do that in a more efficient manner. So that may change how we've done it in the past, but we're still looking at that before we move out on any different type of process in the future. Okay, any other questions? All right, I want to thank you for your time and participation. If you have questions or comments after the fact, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you all.